The headline: Region 3 develops a unique corrective action permit for the Radford Army ammunition plant. Came straight from the EPA website.
And we were trying to promote the RCRA sites that have been cleaned up that as potential redevelopment facilities.
A little background. The Radford Army ammunition plant has been classified as a RCRA site by the Environmental Protection Agency. RCRA stands for the Resource Conservation and Recovery Act, America's primary law when getting rid of hazardous waste. These photographs have been classified, never seen before by the general public. They show the controversial open burning ground at the Arsenal, 100 feet from the New River, taken by EPA agents in May of 2011. Have you ever asked what they burn?
I have not asked what they burn on any open grounds.
Morgan Griffith represents Virginia's 9th Congressional District. What happens inside the Radford Arsenal, good or otherwise, takes place on Griffith's watch because the plant sits inside his district. The EPA released these pictures, but only after a Freedom of Information Act request that took more than a year to be compiled. 400-plus pages of what's called a multimedia inspection report done on the Radford Arsenal in 2011 by the nation's premier environmental agency. Do you know how many multimedia inspection reports have been ordered and completed at the Arsenal?
No, I do not. Multimedia inspections are not conducted under my oversight.
Are you aware of how many have been done, though?
I'm only aware of one.
The Radford Arsenal, managed first by Hercules, then ATK, and now BAE, became a RCRA cleanup site in 1989 when past contamination violations caught up with the plant. Still, it avoided the more serious and stigmatic Superfund label. Good news for the Radford Army ammunition plant, which in an email clarified how serious both statutes are. Either statute, Superfund or RCRA, applied to the Radford plant, provides a rigorous system to ensure the public is aware of the cleanup program. But others with intimate knowledge of both RCRA and Superfund say the Superfund label has more teeth when it comes to transparency.
RCRA only requires it when a permit's being issued or modified. It's recommended that the public get involved on an ongoing basis. CERCLA has a much more prescriptive requirement when it comes to public participation, continuous meetings, and notification.
Back now to the original document, line 8, halfway in. While cleanup of federal facilities is typically done under CERCLA authority, in this particular instance, there were concerns that a national priority listing as a Superfund would decrease the economic development potential for the Radford Army ammunition plant.
I would say that's a bit on the unique side to be mixing in this economic issue with the permitting of the RCRA site.
And then, finally, the report came.
Critics like Devon Palmer Oberlander agree, saying not listing the Arsenal as a Superfund site 25 years ago was all about the Arsenal's economic interests.
It became a RCRA site. That's the bottom line. It became a RCRA site. And as such, the responsibility for community involvement falls to the Arsenal.
The Radford Arsenal, explaining why the lesser transparent RCRA label is enough to keep the public informed, said it created a so-called Restoration Advisory Board, or RAB, meant to address any hazard cleanup questions the community might have. The EPA agreed, even commending the Arsenal for doing so. But what the EPA doesn't know is that recently, the Radford Arsenal stopped informing the public by email about when RAB meetings would take place. The Radford Arsenal does place those notices in the classified section of the Roanoke Times because it is required to do so by law. As of today, the Radford Army ammunition plant has not decided if it will resume those email notifications to the general public. The Virginia Department of Environmental Quality helped create this unique permit. The wording appears to place the Radford Arsenal's economic interest over a Superfund designation that all sides agree would provide the public with more transparency under force of law.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I can certainly see the concern. But I can only reiterate what I said earlier, that economic interests do not trump the environmental interests.
I asked Congressman Griffith the same question. How does it look to you, Morgan? I mean, you're reading it, right?
Yeah, just reading that sentence, it appears that it was certainly a factor that they considered. That factor being the economic impact that a decision to go to Superfund would have.
The EPA's 2011 inspection of the Arsenal found numerous violations. I asked the congressman a question about transparency.
In terms of the public's right to know and its ability to know, would you say that a Superfund site would allow more transparency for the public?
Well, a Superfund site will allow more transparency, but it may create more difficulties to continue to operate what is a classified facility in some parts, in some ways.
It sounds like you're talking economics here.
Well, it is economics to a certain degree. It's also security for the country.
Palmer Overlander said national security should not put the public's health at risk, and the more severe Superfund label would better protect the public still today.
But if we had gotten that Superfund designation, the first thing that would have happened would be EPA would have come in and done a human health risk assessment